We're Sarah and Kate, and this is part 2 of our Switzerland trip. Last time we covered flights, hotel, car hire and driving. Now it's time to show you Chalet Lumiere. Located at an altitude of 1,700 metres, the chalet is tucked against a hillside with an untouched forest in the back and a panoramic open view of the Aringa Valley and the Bearnese Alps in the front. This cost us £2,500 for the week, and with 7 people staying here, it works out to around £357 per person. This was the kind of place we always assumed would be completely out of our budget. With 3 floors and 4 bedrooms, Chalet Lumiere can comfortably sleep 8. There were 2 master bedrooms, one on the top floor with an ensuite and incredible views across the valley, and the other on the lower floor with its own spa suite, consisting of an ensuite, a sauna, steam room, and direct access to the outdoor hot tub and patio. On the upper floor, there were 2 additional bedrooms, one double and one twin, both sharing a Jack and Jill type bathroom. The living area was enormous and open plan with a good-sized kitchen, living area, study and dining space. And it had everything we needed for a self-catering holiday. We spent almost every morning and evening watching the sunrise and sunset on the mountain peaks, which included the Matterhorn and the Dent Blanche. With hot and sunny weather all week, we appreciated the huge fridge freezer with ice machine and the barbecue outside, which we cooked on most nights. The temperatures for our week in August were around 28 to 32 degrees most days, with evenings rarely dropping below 25. So without aircon or fans, it was hot. We made sure to keep the windows and shutters closed during the day to keep the sun out, and open anything and everything at night to let the cooler air in. As for rubbish, which most people don't consider when they're going away, there were large communal bins at the end of the roads and recycling bins located further down the mountain. There were specific types of bags to use, and after a week of staying, we're still not sure we know the exact ins and outs, but we certainly tried. Now, feeding 7 people for a week in Switzerland, which everyone said would be horribly expensive, we definitely came prepared. We made full use of our suitcase allowance to pack a range of food, drinks and snacks to keep the cost down. We included wine, squash, breakfast items such as pancake mix, granola, part-baked rolls and jam, snacks such as biscuits, cereal bars and crisps, and essentials such as tea, coffee and sauces. Some things weren't any more expensive than the UK, such as fizzy drinks and cheese, but meat and fruit were significantly more expensive. We'd packed tins of tuna for packed lunches, so this helped with sandwich fillings and keeping the cost down. It was a 20-minute drive from the chalet to the town, where Aldi had everything we needed. We spent around £167 on food shopping, and then during the week we did another top-up shop for around £60. These shops were predominantly meat, fruit, veg, milk, cheese, yogurts and beer. All things that wouldn't last the trip in the suitcases. While driving up to the chalet, we passed a number of smaller shops, so you were able to get anything you missed without having to go all the way back down to the town. However, prices here were higher, so we'd avoid relying on these for your everything shops. For us, self-catering absolutely made Switzerland more affordable. Between packed lunches, barbecues and bringing food from home, we avoided spending huge amounts eating out every day. So after a quiet evening, following a long travel day, we were up and ready for our first proper day in Switzerland. We made a packed lunch, stored in our cooler bag with snacks and drinks, filled up our water bottles and headed out, driving up and down some very steep mountain roads to reach the Lac de Tseuzier. This is an artificial lake situated in the Valais region of Switzerland and is very popular. The parking was also free, which was a nice change from the UK. And close to a restaurant, a food stall selling drinks and ice creams, a small play park for children, and some outside seating. Fitness levels varied in the group, but we'd read this was an easy hike, taking about an hour and a quarter to complete the full circuit. It was recommended to families with small children, and if using a pushchair, it was accessible on the left side, travelling in a clockwise direction. We decided with such a short walk, we'd leave the bags, drinks and snacks in the car, which proved to be a rookie mistake. At the start of the walk, we were greeted with the most beautiful view across the dam and lake, which was a clear turquoise and looked unreal. We decided to start on the right, like many others, and travelled in an anti-clockwise direction. Scattered with waterfalls and access down to the lakeside for those wanting to get a little closer, the trail was lovely, starting flat before building to a steady incline, with a cafe and toilets at the halfway point. The walk on the left side was significantly easier and certainly flatter and more accessible. There were more waterfalls and a gorgeous gushing stream where we were very tempted to take a dip. We took a leisurely pace, stopping to take photos, enjoy the views, and completed the route in about 2 hours. We think 1 hour and 15 minutes is very optimistic, and while no huge hike, it's not fully accessible to anyone who doesn't have a basic level of fitness. Or maybe just those who are used to living in the flat English countryside, where a speed bump is our version of a hill. With a short break back at the car for some lunch and cold drinks, we made our way to our next destination, the underground lake called Lac Souterrain in the small town of Saint-Léonard. The entrance was hidden up a small hill among the houses, and without designated parking, we parked along the road and headed in to explore the gift shop and cafe. We booked our tickets online, but there was a ticket window at the lake, so you are able to book in person if you prefer. Prices at the time were around £12 per adult and £7 for children aged 5 to 15 years. Tours take place every 30 minutes, with guests needing to arrive at least 15 minutes before your booked time. To access the underground lake, guests are required to walk down the metal staircase. However, we didn't see any lifts or alternate access, so it would be worth contacting them if this is something you would need. As we walked down, the temperature dropped to 15 degrees, which was a welcome relief from the 32 degrees outside. The temperature underground remains the same all year round, so we would recommend a jumper or cardigan, even if it's boiling outside. Our group was split into 2 boats, each with their own guide who spoke French, German, and English. Being the only English speakers in our group, the guide spoke first in French and then translated to us in English. The cave and lakes are lit up, both from the walls, ceilings, and beneath the water. Although this can vary, the caves are open from March to November, as the lake is fed from water coming down the mountains, and the levels vary due to the amount of melting snow and ice. For this reason, the lakes are not open during the winter as the ground is frozen, meaning the levels drop. Due to changes in climate and snow becoming less each year, there are concerns that the lake may eventually have to close if there is not enough water coming through to fill them. The boat trip lasted about 30 minutes, and after heading back to our chalet, we enjoyed a barbecue on the decking and some cold beers, watching the sunset over the Matterhorn in the distance. We were completely blown away by how beautiful this area was, and we still had so much to explore. At this point, our total spend was around £2,181.20. In the next video, we visit a castle, swim in Lake Geneva, and explore waterfalls and eat out for the first time. See you in part 3.